Hello and welcome to this session. Some of you might have heard of Strand and some of you might not, so we'd like to introduce ourselves. We are a global life sciences research and clinical diagnostics company. So we have two parts to the company, one that focuses on pushing the envelope of knowledge and generating new knowledge. And the second part takes all of this knowledge and all the state of the art that's known in the world and tries to bring that in the form of clinical diagnostics products to clinicians such as you. We are an Indian company. We were founded in India, and we were founded from this institute. So, four professors from the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore spun Strand off from the institute in the year 2000, and this is a 100-year-old institute, as you can see, and it's one of the premier institutes for scientific research in India. So, Strand was historical in the sense that this was the first example of a university allowing a major public university allowing a spin-off, and IISc continues to be associated with Strand. Since our founding, we have grown to about 800 employees, which is a very interesting mix of pathologists, geneticists, computer scientists, and life scientists. And our focus on research and our academic heritage shows in the fact that we have more than 35 PhDs from the best institutions worldwide. What we do can be categorized into three parts broadly. On the first part, what we call bioinformatics, which is our strong forte. We are leaders in the world in the ability to analyze data that comes out of scientific experiments, the so-called high throughput scientific experiments that generate a lot of data. We put our data analysis capabilities along with our laboratory and patient recruitment capability to do clinical research, which is help pharmaceutical companies and academic researchers address specific questions, clinical research questions. And then the third part, of course, which is of most relevance here, is the fact that we use all of our knowledge on the bioinformatics and clinical research world and everything that's known out there in the world today to bring clinical diagnostics products to clinicians in India. And these range all the way from routine to specialized to super specialized. In fact, we'll talk more about the super specialized genomics capabilities that we have and that we pioneered in the country. In terms of research, our impact can be best depicted by this graphic, which shows that all of the tools and services that we've provided to academics and various other organizations worldwide have resulted in more than 27,000 publications which cite our tools or services, our technology and our services. And this is a large number of publications, as you can see. And just to give you a few examples of how some of these publications push the frontier of knowledge on women's health, here is one publication that looks at triple negative breast cancer. And as you know, it's very hard to prognosticate. Some people progress fast, some people don't. And while for ER positive cancers, there are good prognostication tools, triple negative cancer doesn't have any. And here is a research study that used our technology and that has identified a potential prognostic biomarker. And similarly, here is another study that looked at endometriosis, where women do develop progesterone resistance, and tried to look at the biological phenomena underlying this resistance, and that knowledge can then be used to determine how that resistance could be overcome. Of course, these are research studies, and bringing them to the market in the form of a diagnostic will take time, but these are all examples where we help discover new and newer facts about women's health. Our customers are global. We work with global pharmaceutical, instrument and diagnostic companies, and all of these use our technology and our services, as do academic researchers across the world, to answer various sorts of research questions. And in India, of course, we have a substantial diagnostics presence. A lot of hospitals and patients across the country use our services. Our labs are spread all over India, so we have a total of 24 labs across the country. of which 3 are Center of Excellence labs, reference labs. 2 are in Bangalore and 1 is in Delhi, in Gurgaon. And together we span a large part of India and are able to address clinicians from a large cross section of the country. Very recently, we've also added the Quest business and portfolio to ours. And a lot of you might be Quest customers and therefore familiar with the Quest offerings and perhaps less familiar with the Strand offerings. So, from your perspective, what you will now see is that Quest, which was very strong in women's health, infectious diseases, wellness, and had a strong North India presence in Delhi, Lucknow, Ghaziabad, and surrounding areas, is now complemented by Strand, which has a very strong genomics oncology portfolio with fertility portfolio coming up, and very strong research capabilities and presence in South and West India. So this combination of Strand and Quest will allow us to provide you with much more comprehensive solutions and perhaps more comprehensive solutions to more clinicians. And what is underlying both Quest and Strand as a core foundational principle is the principle of quality. In fact, if you look at our core values, we look at the diagnostics world in India as not just running a business, but actually innovating and bringing in new products and new services. And we'll show you examples of that. And everything that we bring in has a strong sense of scientific correctness to it. We not only do we insist on scientific correctness, we also look for collaboration with with the clinician community. So we work with the clinician community to understand how the various tests are doing, what their impact is, and then we collaborate and write jointly author publications to report on what we are seeing in the field. So this is a collaborative activity, and our focus is on quality and scientific correctness, and on pioneering new innovation in India. And here is an example of that. Several years ago, in 2013, we pioneered the use of genomic diagnosis in India. Now, for those of you who are familiar, a number of different diseases can only be diagnosed if you're able to sequence the DNA. And traditional methods of sequencing DNA have sequenced very small parts of the DNA, one gene perhaps at a time, but there are many applications which need the sequencing of a lot more genes at the same time, and that necessarily requires a completely different form of technology. It requires a lot of data analysis, a lot of molecular biology expertise, and clinical and genetics expertise to report upon. And so that is the capability that we have developed over the years. And in 2013, when we started till now, we've a number of patients have been helped. In fact, we do hundreds of genomics tests every month now. And here is an example where a young girl suffering from seizures and hypoglycemia for close to a decade and went undiagnosed, and then we had to sequence about 5,000 genes in her genome to be able to diagnose her disorder. Another example of a patient, ovarian cancer patient suffering from cancer, sequenced her tumor DNA and found a mutation that indicated sensitivity to olaparib, and that allowed her to limit her level of chemotherapy usage and instead use olaparib for maintenance. And here's yet another patient whose mother had died very early of breast cancer, suggesting that she might have an inherited predisposition. She didn't quite get tested before she got cancer, but got tested early enough in her cancer cycle for inherited predisposition, found that she was indeed what is called BRCA positive, and that helped her to then recognize the fact that she would continue to be at high risk for cancer recurrence throughout her life, and accordingly allowed her to take decisions about prophylactic mastectomy. So while we've been pioneering the use of genomics in India since 2013, we've also been focusing on ensuring that all the testing that we do is high quality. So we were the first CAP accredited genomics lab in India, in fact in all of South Asia. And CAP, of course, does what's called proficiency testing. That is, they send out blinded samples, and we We work, we have to report on those samples, and then they tell us, what fraction we got right. And so far, we've got 100% right on all of our genomics tests, while even labs in US and Europe do not get 100%. They range from 85 to 100%. I want to give you a couple of examples of how we are pushing the envelope on various new diagnostic tests and their usage in India. So the most cutting edge of those is what we call our liquid biopsy test. Um, this is a paper that we just published. It came out in September 2018, and it shows that how by taking a drop of blood, a liquid biopsy is just a drop of blood, and you take the plasma from that and look for DNA fragments in the plasma and look for mutations in these DNA fragments that might be indicative of a cancer that might be deep-seated in your body. So the beauty about this method is that without invasively biopsying or doing a radioactive scan, you can get a glimpse into what tumors might be growing deeper inside the body just by doing a simple blood test. And what this paper showed is that in about 80% of late stage cancer cases and about 40% of early stage cancer cases, the blood is actually a very good and reasonable indicator of what might be happening inside the tumor deep inside. And so this is a powerful tool that has many future applications, and we, as well as many other people, are working on seeing how to take this technology now and bring it to the clinic in the form of cancer monitoring or an early detection tool. We of course put this test through a CAP proficiency testing, and we got all correct, so all detected successfully without any false positives. And what is important to note is the technical challenge here. To get this to happen, we had to detect 3 molecules in 1,000 in the plasma. So of the 1,000 DNA molecules in the plasma, only 3 would have had the mutation that was tested for, and that is a very fine level of sensitivity that we have to get the test to run, and we got it to run successfully without any false positives. And as I mentioned, there's been much work to take this liquid biopsy and use it for early detection of cancer. So here is a paper that is published from Johns Hopkins, which takes the pap test, which is typically used for cervical cancer detection, and now gives it a high-tech spin. So you do a pap smear, and then you look for and do a liquid biopsy on that pap smear. And they show that about 80% of patients with early stage endometrial cancer can be detected through just a pap smear and a liquid biopsy on the pap. And for ovarian cancer, this was endometrial cancer, for ovarian cancer, 60 odd percent can be detected by just doing a pap and actually a pap and a plasma test. So completely non-invasive tests. A large fraction of cancer cases endometrial and ovarian cancer cases can actually be detected early. And now this is something that we are continuing to research upon and try to do studies in India to bring this to market over the next couple of years. More mature is our efforts on the screening of women in India for inherited breast and ovarian cancer risk. So since 2013, we've been working on what we call a multi-gene panel, where we take multiple genes that do confer inherited risk for breast and ovarian cancer, and we look at referrals that have been coming to our practice and for the screening. And we've aggregated now over 1,000 patients and published retrospectively on what we are seeing in these patients. And as you notice, there are a large number of clinicians in this, so that talks to our collaborative approach. We'd like to work with clinicians who order our tests or who in other ways want to participate in a research study, and then collectively publish our findings. So one of the biggest findings that we had in this paper was that in our referral set, we are seeing a much higher number of BRCA and non-BRCA, important non-BRCA mutations than corresponding studies report in the West. And it's perhaps too early to say whether this is on account of a referral bias or it's on account of something more fundamental. But we've now gone up to 4,000 patients, by far the largest retrospective cohort for inherited cancer risk, breast and ovarian cancer risk in India. Coming to our entire span of our women's health offering, we have a comprehensive set of offerings all the way from preconception, where we do carrier screening, and in the in vitro setting, PGD and PGS, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis and pre-implantation genetic screening. The PGD PGS tests, we are in the process of validating, and again we are seeking clinician partners who can help work with us and help publish the validation. In the prenatal setting, Quest offers MSS and of course the NIPT test as well. And we are now at Strand working on taking this NIPT test and creating a much more economical version. And again, we are seeking clinician partners who can help us validate this test. And of course, we offer the full complement of all the other tests that are needed: amnio, CVS, FISH, karyotyping, chromosomal microarrays, mutation analysis. And in the postnatal setting, again, many of these things, and including a very large gene panel for inherited disorder diagnosis. Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you as we go along to learn more about what we are doing, to provide you with the full complement of diagnostic services that you will need, and increasingly bring newer products into your hands, as well as work with you to publish how these products are doing in the Indian market. Thank you so much.